Some children age quietly, not in their bodies, but in their hearts. You can see it in the way they sit, the way they watch, the way they become caretakers long before anyone calls them that. They were the ones who noticed the tension first, who heard the anger in footsteps, who learned to stay small so the house stayed calm. They weren't protected. They became the protectors. They weren't comforted. They became the comfort. They weren't allowed to be children, so they became adults far too soon. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. And this video will finally explain why you became the way you are, and what it takes to heal from a childhood you survived, but never truly lived. Some children learn to be responsible before they learn to play. Some learn to comfort others before they ever feel comforted themselves. And some learn to be strong long before they ever feel safe. In psychology, we call this emotional parentification, a child taking on roles, emotions, and responsibilities far beyond their years. In this video, we'll explore how these children are shaped, what they carry into adulthood, and how they can finally learn to become the child they weren't allowed to be. Growing up too early starts silently. A child notices the tension in the home, the arguments, the emotional instability, and without being told, they step into a role that was never theirs. They learn not to cry, not to ask, not to need. Because needing is dangerous, it makes adults frustrated. So they minimize themselves to protect everyone else. Voiceover. These children become caretakers. They clean messes, soothe emotions, calm storms they didn't create. They think, if I can make everyone happy, maybe I'll finally feel safe. But that safety never comes. Instead, the child becomes the emotional parent, and they grow up believing that love must be earned. When a child grows up too early, the adult they become looks strong, responsible, mature, independent. But inside, they're exhausted. They never learned how to rely on anyone. They never learned how to ask for help. They only learned one thing: if I don't handle everything myself, no one will. Children who grew up too early become adults terrified of being a burden. They apologize for everything. They stay quiet about their pain. They smile even when hurting, because they were trained to believe their needs cause trouble. So they hide their loneliness behind responsibility. In relationships, they give deeply. They overextend. They become the listener, the fixer, the healer. But when it's their turn to receive, they freeze. Because vulnerability feels dangerous. Because they were the child who comforted, not the child who was comforted. But healing is possible. And it begins with permission. Permission to rest. Permission to feel. Permission to be held instead of holding everyone. Permission to be human, not responsible for everything. The child who grew up too early can still grow into an adult who finally feels safe. If you saw yourself in this, you were never too sensitive, too responsible, or too mature for your age. You were just a child, doing what you needed to survive. But your story didn't end in childhood. You can still learn to receive love, to rest, to be soft again. You deserve to grow at your own pace now. You deserve the childhood you never had, even if you find it in adulthood.